The Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, is the Department of Justice's Inspector General, appointed by Barack Obama, has completed his report on the Pfizer warrants used to target the Trump team. Now, we do know the Pfizer warrants were used to go after Carter Page, who was a vehicle to get at Trump. There were 4 warrants, one initial warrant and 3 renewal applications, all of which were based on the dossier, on the dossier paid for by the Democratic National Committee, the Clinton campaign, the FBI, the State Department worked on it too. So this was a collaborative effort to target President Trump, and the dossier was used in a fraudulent way on the court, where they were telling the courts that it was verified. It wasn't verified. They didn't disclose to the court the full nature of the political bias behind it. They didn't disclose to the court the full nature of the problematic witness behind it. And they suggested it had more, there was more evidence to back it up than actually was, in the sense that they said, oh, we have this dossier, and we have reports, and we've got State Department information. Well, the published reports were based on the dossier. The State Department information based on the dossier or the same sources. So it was the dishonest Justice Department and the FBI under Barack Obama and then President Trump, the deep state actors there, targeting President Trump with these unprecedented spy warrants, who were essentially telling the court, we've got this dossier, when in fact it was, as I say, a self-licking ice cream cone. Very circular, and when asked, and when they're talking about the sources, they tell the court in so many words, well, we've got 3 sources, me, myself, and I. And they pretend that's 3 different sources. So Judicial Watch has disclosed through its Freedom of Information Act lawsuits a part of the Pfizer application warrants, the applications for the warrants that show the dishonest use of this dossier. We have the document showing the FBI was also paying Christopher Steele, the alleged author of the dossier, during the campaign. And then we have of course, they fired him. We have those documents too. Then we also have documents that Judicial Watch uncovered showing that the FBI improperly used Bruce Orr, whose wife Nellie Orr worked at the Justice Department, to launder more information and communicate still with Christopher Steele and the Clinton spy ring at Fusion GPS. In fact, Nellie Orr essentially had a desk at the Justice Department, given all the email traffic and all the dossier-type anti-Trump garbage she was laundering into the into the Justice Department and the FBI that justify the spying and illegal targeting of President Trump. So is the Pfizer report going to cover all that? I suspect it will. All the reports are indicating that it's going to be very critical. And the big question is, are there going to be referrals for criminal prosecution? And if any referrals are out there, will they be pursued by the Justice Department? So what can we expect? Well, the Justice Department was asked to prosecute, or referred for, James Comey was referred for prosecution for his criminal activity alleged with respect to the handling of the Trump memos that he leaked, some of which were classified, that he improperly maintained at his house. Justice Department gave him a pass on that. Andrew McCabe was referred to the Justice Department. Andrew McCabe was the #2 under James Comey, acting FBI director for a time. He was referred back in April for a criminal prosecution because he lied repeatedly, both under oath and not under oath, that which is illegal if you're telling FBI officials or investigators false information, whether you're sworn or unsworn, that because he was lying about his involvement in leaks about the non-investigation of the Clinton Foundation. Now that happened 18 months ago, and he still hasn't been prosecuted. The news is this week that McCabe's lawyers were unable to convince senior levels at the Justice Department to stop a prosecution from going forward, and that the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia does support a prosecution going forward. So, presumably one will go forward, but we'll see. We will see. So if any prosecutions come out of this Pfizer Gate report, it would be a pleasant surprise. But you can trust that Judicial Watch will continue to push for the information, because nothing will be done unless all the information is out there. And it's interesting because when it came to the Comey report, I suspect a lot of the Pfizer report, it's going to be repetitive in the sense that a lot of the information is already out there for prosecutors to pursue or not pursue already, thanks to Judicial Watch, a little bit of work from Congress, but thanks mostly to Judicial Watch. So the fact that nothing's happened thus far doesn't augur well for prosecutions in the future. Now remember, this is the worst criminal conspiracy, at least at the government level, in American history. The targeting of the Trump campaign, candidate Trump, President-elect Trump, and then President Trump himself. Criminal seditious conspiracy, coup, call it what you will, been nothing like it in American history. And I'm concerned, as they did with Comey, that they're going to limit and narrowly describe the alleged crimes and then figure out a way and justify an excuse not to prosecute them. That's what I'm worried about. So we'll see what happens. You can trust Judicial Watch in the meantime to continue to get the information out there that is essential if we're going to hold the government accountable, because we don't know what to hold the government accountable about unless we have access to the information about what it's really been up to. And to that end, we've received two major groups of documents this week, or within the last few weeks. The first group is from the State Department. And the State Department headline, I'll give you the headline from our release. Judicial Watch, new State Department documents reveal last-minute efforts by Obama State Department to undermine President Trump. So the documents show that the State Department, and we have other documents showing this activity had been taking place, but the detail here is extraordinary, that the State Department under Barack Obama and John Kerry, so after President Trump was elected and before he was inaugurated, was desperate to get information out to its friendly allies in the Senate, one of whom was a Republican. I think he's a former senator now, Bob Corker. But you know, no fan of Donald Trump. But Senator Warner, the Democrat from Virginia, who was the incoming chair of the Intelligence Committee, and they were shoveling this information out in a desperate way before the inauguration, including classified information. Many of those who were pushing this information out were, surprise, surprise, Clinton donors. A January 2017 email, January 13th, remember the inauguration, I think it was on January 20th, suggests that the intelligence community was providing raw intel to Senator Warner. And of course, such an exchange would have had to have been approved by the Office of Director of National Intelligence, who was run by the unethical James Clapper. And certainly enough, the documents say, yes, that is correct. Warner raw intel stuff is going through IC channels. So they were pushing it out through the Office of Director of National Intelligence to Senator Warner just a few days before the inauguration. The documents show early in the process of gathering and clearing classified information that they bring a senior advisor and investigations counsel into the loop on January 5th, 2017, in which he says Schramm would help, quote, figure out the best way to get these to the Hill. The woman who brought this person in was a donor to Clinton, gave $2,700 to the campaign. So she's managing this process in early January to get this dirt, and it really wasn't dirt because there was nothing tying Trump to Russia, to Senator Warner and his colleagues in the Senate, who were hostile to President Trump. If we're not going through our standard CDP, collection due process, others in H need to weigh in on how to move these to the Hill. That was sent on January 11, 2017. They're not going through their standard process. So they were bypassing and trying to short-circuit the rules governing the handling of classified information. They just can't share classified information willy-nilly with the Senate. In fact, the fact that information is classified is often a reason to either not share it or delay the sharing of classified information with the legislative branch. In emails written on January 10th and 11th, 2017, one of the officials recommends that, expresses the need to get the documents cleared, quote, as soon as possible, ASAP. January 17th, 3 days before Trump's inauguration, Kavalak, who has been involved in, is up to her neck in pushing out this anti-Trump dossier information, despite knowing that Steele was no good, emails her colleagues emphasizing that getting the documents to Cardin and Warner, Ben Cardin, also a senator, is a priority and urges the process to be sped up. Agree, this is a priority. I don't see why lengthy reviews are required. I would suggest we send up the things that can go immediately, and if there's any concern about specific internal information, documents, those can be adjudicated separately and sent up as a follow-on. So they were just trying to get anything they could out the door. This is 3 days before the inauguration. Another email, there's a time sensitivity to these documents, 2 days before the inauguration. OD&I is, quote, fine with the State Department sharing cables with the Hill, 3 days before the inauguration. Is there anything we can do to better facilitate this process? The clock is ticking. They talk about getting a package out the door by January 19th, the day before the inauguration. These documents show the Obama State Department, staffed by Clinton donors, improperly and perhaps illegally shoveled classified information to their allies in the Senate in the hopes of undermining Donald Trump. This information is coming out thanks to Judicial Watch suing because we couldn't get the records. And we began asking for these records in February 2018, and we're now only getting them. Look, if the classified information had a need to go up to the Hill, there was no need to bypass the rules, short-circuit the process, and accelerate it. And the inauguration of President Trump wouldn't matter. But they wanted to make President Trump's life miserable, as I said, a criminal seditious conspiracy. So they were sending this information out with the hopes, it's clear, that their friendly partisans on the Hill would use it against him. So when I talk about Pfizergate being only one element of the criminal conspiracy, this is the other element, which is the abuse of authorities in the various agencies to, well, improperly leak classified information. That's a whole other category. But share it improperly with others. That's not legal either. And Judicial Watch has strong evidence that it happened. You know, we had documents showing this was going on previously released to us. And this is the worst quote, my favorite quote. I don't mean favorite in a good way. January 19th email sums it up. We made the deadline. Thank you everyone for what was truly a department-wide effort. What was the deadline? President Trump's inauguration. So after he was elected and up till the minute he was inaugurated, the State Department was desperately trying to send up information to its allies in the Hill, Democrat mostly, to try to undermine him. Unbelievable abuses of power. And it shows you that the Justice Department and the FBI are only one aspect of the criminal, or only one of or two agencies of many agencies that need a serious investigation. Is there a state IG investigation into this? I don't think so. I don't think so.